Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Bhagavan Vacha. Abhayam Sattva Samsudhya. Yana Yogya Vivashtitihi. Danam Damascha Yagnascha. Sadhyayastapa Arjavam. Ahimsa Satyam Akrodhas. Tyaga Santerapeshunam. Daya Bhutes Aloptvam. Mardavam Hrir Achapalam. Tejasamadriti Socham. Adroho Natimanita. Bhavanti Sampadam Devim. Abhijatasya Bharata.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self-control, performance of sacrifices, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault-finding, compassion for all living entities, freedom from covetousness, gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, and freedom from envy and from the passion of honor and the passion for honor. These transcendental qualities, O son of Bharata, belong to godly men endowed with divine nature.
Dambo Darpo Bhimanasya. Koda Paroshamevacha. Agyanam Chavichatasya. Arta Sampadamasurim.
Pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance. These qualities belong to those of demoniac nature, O son of Pritha.
Devi Sampad Vimokshaya. Debadna Surimata. Masucha Sampadam Devim. Abhijato Sipanda.
The transcendental qualities are conducive to liberation, whereas the demoniac qualities make for bondage. Do not worry, O son of Pandu, for you are born with the divine qualities.
Dobhuta Sargolokesmin. Deva Asura Evacha. Devo Vishtarasa Prokta. Asuram Partameshanu.
O son of Pritha, in this world there are two kinds of created beings. One is called the divine and the other demoniac. I have already explained to you at length the divine qualities. Now hear from me of the demoniac.
Pravrittim cha nivrittim cha. Jnana na vidurasuraha. Na socham na picha chacharo. Na satyam teshu vidyate.
Those who are demoniac do not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. Neither cleanliness nor proper behavior nor truth is found in them.
Asatyam apratishtam te. Jagad aharanishvaram. Aprapaspara sambhutam. Kimanyat kama hetukam.
They say that this world is unreal with no foundation, no God in control. They say it is produced of sex desire and has no cause other than lust.
Etam drishtim avatabhya nashtatmano ipabuddhayaha prabhavanti ugra karmana shayaya jagatohita.
Following such conclusions, the demoniac who are lost to themselves and who have no intelligence gain in unbeneficial, horrible works meant to destroy the world.
Kamam ashritya dushpuram damba manamadanvita mohadkriti vasadgrahan pravartante suchivrata.
Taking shelter of insatiable lust and absorbed in the conceit of pride and false prestige, the demoniac, thus illusioned, are always sworn to unclean work, attracted by the impermanent.
Chintam aprameyam cha pralayantam upashitaha kama bhoga parama eta vaditi nishtite ashapasasater baddha kama krodha parayanaha ihante karma bhogartam ananyanartha sanchayan.
They believe that to gratify the senses is the prime necessity of human civilization. Thus, until the end of their life, their anxiety is immeasurable. Bound by a network of hundreds of thousands of desires and absorbed in lust and anger, they secure money by illegal means for sense gratification.
Idam adya maya labdam imam prapsya manoratham idam astidam api me bhavishyati punardanam aso maya hata shatrar anishye cha paranapi ishparoham aham bhogi siddhoham balavan sukhi adyo bija navan ashmi konyosti sadrisho maya yakshe dashyami modishya iti agyana vimohitaha.
The demoniac person thinks, so much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future. More and more. He is my enemy, and I have killed him, and my other enemies will also be killed. I am the Lord of everything. I am the enjoyer. I am perfect, powerful, and happy. I am the richest man, surrounded by aristocratic relatives. There is none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform sacrifices, I shall give some charity, and thus I shall rejoice. In this way, such persons are deluded by ignorance.
Aneka chitta vibranta mohajala samavrtaha parshaka karma bhokeshu patanti narake.
Thus perplexed by various anxieties and bound by a network of illusions, they become too strongly attached to sense enjoyment and fall down into hell.
Hankaram balam darpam kamam krodam cha samshritaha ma aparadeshu pradivishanta.
Sridham, I think you missed a verse, did you?
Oh yeah. Atma sambhavita stabda dana mana madanvitaha yajante nama veneste dambhavena vidipurvakam.
Self-complacent and always impudent, deluded by wealth and false prestige, they sometimes proudly perform sacrifices in name only, without following any rules or regulations.
Ahankaram balam darpam kamam krodam chashamshrita amamatma paradeheshu pradivishyantu vyayushaka.
Bewildered by false ego, strength, pride, lust, and anger, the demons become envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in their own bodies and in the bodies of others, and blaspheme against the real religion.
Dhanaham dishvita kruran samasareshu nardaman shipami ajashram asuban asur evayonishu.
Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, are perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life.
Ashurim yonamapana muda janmani mama prapyeva konteya tato yantyadamam gatim.
Attaining repeated birth amongst the species of demoniac life, O son of Kunti, such persons can never approach me. Gradually, they sink down into the most abominable type of existence.
Trividam narakashyedam dwaram nashanamatmana kama krodhastatalobhas tasmad etatrayam tyajet.
There are 3 gates leading to this hell: lust, anger, and greed. Every sane man should give these up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul.
Eter vimukta konteya tamodvareshtibir nara acharatyatmanashrayas tato yati param.
The man who has escaped these 3 gates of hell, O son of Kunti, performs acts conducive to self-realization and thus gradually attains the supreme destination.
Yasrashra vidim utshijya vartate kamakarata nasa siddhima vapnoti na sukham na param gatim.
He who discards spiritual injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection nor happiness nor the supreme destination.
Tasmat shastram paramanam te karya vavasthito natva shastra vidanotam karma kartum irharasi.
One should therefore understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulations of the scriptures. Knowing such rules and regulations, one should act so that he may gradually be elevated.
Thank you, Sri Raman Yash, for your recitation.
Thank you.
That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So now we shall continue. Let me make sure that everyone's muted. We'll proceed with today's session. Before we do, we'll recite the Mangala Charanam prayers, and you can also join in by behind your muted mics. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripal Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Bhashadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharine. Hare Krishna, welcome everyone to today's chat session. It's nice to see that there's still so many devotees that come online to continue to participate. We trust and pray that all of you are well in these difficult COVID-19 times, and you are safe and your families are safe. But at least one thing can be sure is that by taking shelter from the Bhagavad Gita, the words of the Lord, we will be protected from fear and the other troubles that come to the mind. So we continue with today's chapter entitled The Divine and Demoniac Natures. Very interesting chapter. And today we will be moving on to text number 5. Daivi Sampar Vimokshaya Nirbhanya Yashuri Mata Masucha Sampadam Daivim Abhijatosi Pandava. Word for word synonyms. Daivi, transcendental. Sampat, assets. Vimokshaya, meant for liberation. Nibandhaya, for bondage. Asuri, demonic qualities. Mata, are considered. Ma, do not. Suchaha, worry. Sampadam, assets. Daivim, transcendental. Abhijataha, born of. Asi, you are. Pandava, O son of Pandu. Translation by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The transcendental qualities are conducive to liberation, whereas the demoniac qualities make for bondage. Do not worry, O son of Pandu, for you are born with the divine qualities. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Krishna encouraged Arjuna by telling him that he was not born with demoniac qualities. His involvement in the fight was not demoniac, because he was considering the pros and cons. He was considering whether respectable persons such as Bhishma and Drona should be killed or not. So he was not acting under the influence of anger, false prestige, or harshness. Therefore, he was not of the quality of the demons. For a Kshatriya, a military man, shooting arrows at the enemy is considered transcendental, and refraining from such a duty is demoniac. Therefore, there was no cause for Arjuna to lament. Anyone who performs the regulative principles of the different orders of life is transcendently situated. Very, very interesting verse and beautiful purport by Srila Prabhupada. And we'll see how we can touch on some of the salient points. So Srila Prabhupada writes, he was considering whether respectable persons such as Bhishma and Drona should be killed or not. So he was not acting under the influence of anger, false prestige, or harshness. Therefore, he was not of the quality of the demons. For a Kshatriya, a military man shooting arrows at the enemy is considered transcendental, and refraining from such a duty is demoniac. So externally, people may wrongly look at Arjuna's situation and consider that he is going to fight and kill his enemies, although on the enemy side were his teacher, his grandfather, and his other family members, and his elderly. Normally, engaging in such acts of killing one's teacher, one's grandfather, one's elders, and other family members would be considered demoniac. Krishna the Lord uses some interesting words in his response. He says, Ma suchaha, do not worry. We know Krishna uses the same words in the 66th verse of the 18th chapter when he says, Sarva dharma parichaja, ma mekam sharanam praja, aham tvam sarva papibhyo mokshasyami ma suchaha. He tells Arjuna, just abandon all varieties of religion and surrender unto me. I will protect you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Do not fear. So here Krishna is using the same words, ma suchaha. Do not worry. Which means that the Lord could detect that there may have been some worry in Arjuna. Previously, Krishna had described in quite some detail and depth all of the qualities of those with divine nature. And you can see one of the qualities there was non-violence, compassion for all living entities, and free from envy and the passion for honor. Now, a lot of those words Krishna is using would have been relevant to Arjuna's situation. And Krishna had only briefly mentioned the qualities of those who are demonic: pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance. So it would seem from this verse that Krishna may have detected some sort of doubt in Arjuna. Arjuna must have been thinking, do I possess the divine qualities or the demonic qualities? So in this verse, Krishna is telling Arjuna, certainly you are born of divine qualities. Do not worry. But it's interesting. There's a couple of interesting aspects of both this verse and the chapter. We've just recited the whole chapter, and then one thing that is very noticeable from this chapter, besides text number 3, where Krishna explains at great length the divine qualities, most of this chapter focuses on the demoniac qualities. And one may think, actually, it is only those who have some divine qualities that go to read the Bhagavad Gita, to study the Bhagavad Gita, to take the time and effort to want to understand the words of the Lord. Those who are demoniac, they will have no interest in coming to the Bhagavad Gita and reading the Bhagavad Gita. So it raised a question in our minds. If that is the situation, Bhagavad Gita is for an audience who are largely divine, or have some divine qualities at least. Why would Krishna focus so much of effort in describing the demoniac qualities? Would any of you like to give some thoughts or reflections you may have why the Lord could possibly be doing this? Any
Hare
thoughts?
Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Rupa Mataji.
Humble obeisances. My thought will be like Krishna is describing the material world and material nature in the previous chapter. So, and materialistic people, like when we read the demonic qualities, we see materialistic people have quite a lot of demonic qualities, I will say. Maybe that is the reason. I don't know.
Okay, thank you for that. That's an interesting reason, and it
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
seems like a valid reason. Anyone has any other thoughts on why? Why the Lord is doing this?
Sorry.
Sandeep first, and then you, Puja Mataji. Was it you, Sandeep Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisance.
Please accept mine.
Prabhuji, it's a bit like, if somebody, Krishna is guiding Arjuna throughout Gita, and if somebody is guiding someone through maybe a forest, they explain pitfalls to avoid. So it is very important to identify what to avoid, and possibly that's the reason these qualities are in great details they are described, so as to identify and avoid them.
Very interesting. That's a very nice reason, Sandeep Prabhu. Just to say in my repeat his reason, Krishna is pointing out those demonic qualities so we can be sure we recognize them and avoid them. Puja Mataji, you wanted to say something.
Yes, maybe there are more people with demoniac qualities in this material world than those with divine. And so he's pointing out that we have to be careful of such people with such qualities so that we do not fall into their trap, into their association, and sort of deviate away from our path.
That's a very good reason, Puja Mataji. Thank you so much for that. So no bad association is bad for us. It's a big pitfall. So we can recognize that. Yes, very nice. Anyone else would like to say?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Premna Mataji.
Is it because Krishna knows that we all have these qualities at times, sometimes more than others, and he wants us to realize it for ourselves?
Yes, very much so. It is said that in previous yugas, the demons and the devotees used to live on different planets. But with the passage of time, the demons and the devotees would live on the same planet. And with the passage of time, they would live in different countries but on the same planet. But with the passage of time, they lived in the same area, the devotees and the demons. And he said in Kali Yuga, with passage of time, then they were born in the same family. Sometimes they were demons and they were devotees in the same family. I said in Kali Yuga, the demoniac and the divine natures is found in the same body. So we would have demonic and divine quality. Now, if we look at 16:4, where Krishna lists out the demoniac qualities, and at least I speak for myself, if I was honest, I would recognize some of these demonic qualities that arise in my being, in my consciousness at various times. So that would indicate that the divine and the demoniac qualities exist in the same body within ourselves sometimes. So Premila Mataji, what you say is quite true, quite true.
Thank you.
Anyone else has anything else to add? Would like to add anything? Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Bhagavati Mataji.
I think Krishna exactly means that we can increase the chances of success in the spiritual path if we cultivate the divine qualities while toning down, devilish qualities. That's what exactly, because in today's age, it's so easy to misunderstand some of these qualities. It's essential for our survival.
Yes, yes.
And without these qualities, we will not go ahead in life, as it is not going to be successful in life at all, because Krishna knows everything.
Yes, yes. True, Mataji, true. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
For that addition. So yeah, that's true. So the Bhagavad Gita is for a wide spectrum of people. The Bhagavad Gita contains everything. It's for the liberated souls. It's for those that are completely divine. It's also some that are starting off on a very low end of the spectrum in terms of divine and demonic. And there's some people in the middle of the spectrum. So Krishna is addressing a wide audience. In one sense, he's speaking to Arjuna, but his words are meant for the benefit of human society. And what would become more prevalent, and as we know, Bhagavad Gita was spoken about 5,000 years ago. In one sense, at the end of Dwapara Yuga, in the beginning of Kali Yuga. So Kali Yuga means the demoniac qualities become very prevalent all around. So Krishna is speaking quite comprehensively about them. The Lord uses one very interesting word, abhijataha, born of. He tells Arjuna, you don't have to worry. You are born of divine qualities. So that raises an interesting question. Does that mean we are either born divine or we are born demoniac? Or are we all born divine and we change thereafter? I'll welcome some thoughts from the various devotees online today. What do you all think? Do you think we are born divine or we are born demoniac? Or we become, or it's a mixture of both? What are your thoughts?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Bhagavati Mataji. Yes.
Well, I would like to say that it is our past karma. It all depends on our karma, how we take birth, the next birth. And also we can be demoniac and can be, divine. But that all happens once you are in your mother's womb, you don't know anything. But once you come out of it, then exactly everything appears, because the Maya catches, and then I think the demoniac qualities really develops in the child. But it all depends what karma we came from, the past karmas, you see. Okay. That's what I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a saying that all children are born innocent. So Yeah, we'll discuss a bit more. That's thank you for those reflections, Bhagavati Mataji. There's many important things you've said there.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Joli Mataji.
I believe that we're born as divine soul. Is that the question you asked?
Yes. Are we born divine or demonic, or what is it?
We are born divine, and I don't think karma comes into it when you're born, because you can deal with the karma later. I think it's to do with you're born divine, but your mind start developing from young, and that's what your enemy is. Your enemy of the mind can be demonic, and it can be divine. So we're, whatever route we take, that's how the mind will lead us. Because we are more empowered than the mind. I think mind cannot control us. We are allowing it to control us.
Thank you for those insights, Joli Mataji. And you feel we are born divine. And yes, we will discuss that a bit more. Mitali Mataji says, I think we are born divine. That's wonderful. And I missed some previous comments. Emma Mataji said, Krishna speaks about so we can know the difference, and Krishna is making us aware of Kali Yuga qualities. Yes. Anna says, so we can recognize them. Yes. So yeah. So let's explore this. Well, before I do, anyone else? I think Sandy, probably you wanted to add something. Did you want to?
Yes. In chapter 6, Krishna very clearly says that there is the way you are born, you continue from your past. If you have done when Arjuna asked if somebody has done a little bit of devotional service, what happens to this? That does it go waste? So Krishna is very clearly saying that it doesn't go waste. That person is born in a Brahmin family from where, or a wealthy family from where he or she can continue. So we are either born divine or demonic based on our prarabdha, and then we can change it based on by sowing the new seeds.
Yes, you use one very interesting words, prarabdha, there, and unfortunately I didn't put that slide up, but there was a very interesting quotation that Srila Prabhupada once said. He said, children are born in innocent, but there is something called prarabdha karma, unmanifest. And in each of us, we have some unmanifested qualities. They're in seed. And as we grow up, they become manifested. So I'll talk a bit more about that, but let's just explore this one in particular, this point about...
Prabhuji.
Yes,
sorry, Prabhuji. There is something called vasanas, or so it's also coming, the impressions, the soul carries the mind, the subtle body, and then the subtle body, the vasanas from previous lives are there as well.
Yes, very true. Very true. The impressions from the previous life. So thank you for adding that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. So just let's explore this demoniac and being born of demoniac and divine qualities from few examples from Shastra. So let's look at some of the demons that were born. And let's look at the history of Jai and Vijay. Jai and Vijay, they were the gatekeepers of the Vaikuntha planets. They, unknowingly or unintentionally offended the four Kumaras. And they got cursed to take birth as demons. And their first birth was the birth of Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. And in their birth, we see two particular forces come into play in their demoniac births. One was the curse of the Kumaras, and the second was they being conceived at the wrong time. Now, within the Vedic culture, the time of conception is considered extremely important. If one wants to attract a good soul into the womb of the mother, the consciousness of the parents at the time of conception, the time at which conception takes place, the circumstances, the place by which consciousness conception takes place, all come together in determining the type of soul that gets attracted into a particular womb of the mother. Therefore, in Vedic culture, there is the principle of Garbhadan Samskar, that the parents being conscious how important is the time of conception. It has to be at the right time, at the right, in the right consciousness. They perform, especially those Prabhupada says in Brahman and Kshatriya families. Because in Brahman and Kshatriya families, you have to attract the right type of souls. If the wrong type of soul is attracted into a Brahman family, the Brahmins are meant to be guiding society. If they become demoniac, they perpetuate the demoniac consciousness into society. We see in the Bhagavatam the example of King Vena. Although his father was a righteous king, Vena, because of his mother's side being demoniac, he became a very demoniac king. And he created havoc in the kingdom. So the consciousness, certainly according to Srimad Bhagavatam at least, one is to some respect born divine or demoniac based on the consciousness of the parents at the time of death. Also, Bhagavatam gives a very interesting example in Prahlad Maharaj. We all know that Prahlad Maharaj was the son of Hiranyakashipu. And his mother was Kayadho. And when Hiranyakashipu went to the Mandarachal mountains to perform his severe austerities, he was demoniac. He was very demoniac. His wife Kayadho was pregnant. And Indra and the demigods arrested her. And their mood was, in the womb of Kayadhu is the son of Hiranyakashipu, a big demon. So he would have the same consciousness of his father. So they wanted to, they captured Kayadhu and they wanted to kill her, not kill her, but remove the baby from her womb and kill her, the baby. But at that point, Narad Muni intercepted them. And he said, please don't do this. Although this child is the child of Hiranyakashipu, this child will be a great devotee of the Lord. And he took Kayadhu to his ashram and he would daily instruct her on Krishna consciousness, on spiritual life and spiritual knowledge. And all the time Prahlad in the womb used to hear. And although he was born of demoniac parents, well, not demonic, his mother wasn't demonic, but his father at least was a great demon. Prahlad was a great devotee of the Lord. So we see the example of Prahlad in the Shastra. Then we see the example of Vritrasura. Vritrasura was Chitraketu, who was a great devotee of the Lord. But because he had offended Lord Shiva, he got cursed by Mother Parvati to become a demon. And he took birth as the fearsome demon, Vritrasura. And in some respects, he was the leader of the demons. They used to all follow Vritrasura. But Vritrasura, externally, he had the body of a demon. But internally, by the will and mercy of the Lord, he preserved his devotional qualities. And when he was fighting with Indra, Indra was so astonished. You know, when Vritrasura started to instruct him, he was thinking, what's going on here? He's a demon, but yet he is speaking like a devotee. And here we see the example that even the demons, externally they may look like demons. Even Bali Maharaj, he was the king of the demons. But when Lord Vamanadev came and asked him for 3 steps of land, he was more than willing to grant that. And when Lord Vamanadev, with his first 2 steps, he covered all of the land possessed by Bali Maharaj. And he said, you promised me 3 steps. I've covered everything you own with my 2 steps. Where do I put my 3rd step? And Bali Maharaj said, put it on my head. Your 3rd step should go on my head. So it's very interesting, these demon and divine qualities, but there's something that shifts the scale, and that is Bhakti Yoga. In the Bhagavatam, there is this beautiful verse, many of you all may know it. Yashashti Bhakti Bhagavati Akinchana Sarvai Gunais Tatra Samasta Suraha Arav Abhaktasya Kuto Mahat Guna Manoratte Nasti Dvato Bhahi. Very famous verse quoted by Srila Prabhupada many a time. And the translation of this verse is, all the demigods and their exalted qualities, such as religion, knowledge, and renunciation, become manifest in the body of one who has developed unalloyed devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. On the other hand, a person devoid of devotional service and engaged in material activities has no good qualities. Even if he is adept at the practice of mystic yoga or the honest endeavor of maintaining his family and relatives, he must be driven by his own mental speculations and must engage in the service of the Lord's external energy. How can there be any good qualities in such a man? I was listening to a lecture Srila Prabhupada spoke recently, and he gave a very simple definition of who's a demon and who's a devotee. And he says a devotee is one who abides by the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's conscious of the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he abides by it. And a demon is one who disregards the orders and the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who does not recognize the Supreme Personality of Krishna. So no matter how good they may seem externally, how cultured they may seem externally, if they do not have the primary character quality of surrender to Krishna, recognition of Krishna's, they are to be considered demoniac. His Holiness Satsvarup Das Goswami wrote a nice book once, and the title of this book is Am I a Demon or a Vaishnav? Prabhupada writes many times, to be a Vaishnav is not an easy matter. A Vaishnav is a very exalted person. Therefore, sometimes we see the devotees, they never say, I am a devotee. They always say, I am an aspiring devotee. I am not a Vaishnav, but I'm an aspiring Vaishnav. Because the Vaishnav has all the 26 qualities, divine qualities. And it's a process of becoming a Vaishnav. It's a process. and one who is situated on the path of Bhakti Yoga. Such a person, as Prabhupada says, a green mango, if exposed to sunlight and warmth, will certainly become a ripe mango. So all of us on the path of devotional service, we may not possess all of the divine qualities. We may still see some of the demonic qualities exist in our consciousness. We should not be discouraged. We should be confident that if we continue to practice Bhakti Yoga as given to us by our previous acharyas and the Lord, certainly we will become, actually, in one sense, we can say that we are already divine, Daivi. We just covered. And all we have to do is re-establish our divinity by removing all of the anarthas that we have been covered over by so many millions of lifetimes in this material world. So yes, very interesting verse, this one. And I'll stop here and I'll see if anyone's got any questions, comments, or reflections. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Pramila Mataji.
Prabhuji, on Vitrasura, I'm trying to think, I want to phrase this properly. Vitrasura was Chitraketu and he was cursed by Parvati Mata. So he had to go through that. But his father, Twatsva, I think was his name, when he was doing, he was doing the mantra before Vitrasura was born, he pronounced the mantra wrong. And as a result, instead of him killing Indra, Indra had to kill him. So how much of that, the father saying the wrong mantra, affected what he had to go through? I mean, he was cursed and he had to go through his karma, but how much of that wrong mantra affected him as a person?
If we read the full pastime of Vitrasura, it would seem that the impact was little, in that, he may have got externally, the impact would seem to have been more external than internal.
Yes.
In terms of the body he got and his associates he took on. But internally, that, because Krishna says, he preserves what we have and carries to us what we lack. So by the mercy of the Lord, his devotion, his internal consciousness was preserved. The externals were affected.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. That makes sense.
Any other questions, comments, or reflections from anyone? What I take away when I read these chapters is a few things. One is I have to take my bhakti very seriously. And secondly, I don't have to extraneously try to endeavor for the divine qualities. Simply by the effects of bhakti yoga, these divine qualities will automatically come. If simply I give focus not on developing separately these divine qualities, but simply by focusing on devotion, bhakti, these will come by themselves. There are a few comments here, interesting. Sri Dams writes, I think we are born with a basic nature according to past samskars, but we have the ability to develop divine qualities. Yes, Sri Dam, that's such an intelligent statement. What we are born with does not really matter. What we become is what matters. And those of us who get the opportunities for devotional service, even though we may have bad past samskaras, if we embrace devotional service, that will be to our benefit. Wonderful statement, Sridham. Emma Mataji writes, regarding divine qualities in the womb, Kapila Dev says that irrespective of previous karma, if the soul in womb recognizes himself as servant and surrenders, then his liberation is assured. Yes, Emma Mataji, very much so. Surrender to Krishna and the Lord triumphs everything. You know, past samskars, past impressions, past karmas, everything. If one surrenders completely to Krishna, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, I will protect you from all sinful reaction. Krishna says that. Just surrender unto me. I will protect you. Ma suchaha, do not fear. So no matter what the past was there in our past, if we surrender to Krishna, Krishna has given this guarantee, I will protect you from those reactions. Tripta Singh, Hare Krishna, thank you for wonderful class. What is the source of demonic qualities? Like Krishna is the source of divine qualities. Huh? Interesting question, Mataji, wonderful question. There are different sources. Association in the Shastras is deemed to be one very important cause. If we take the wrong association, we develop those qualities. Then there's other factors like the consciousness of the parents at the time of death, one's previous karma, as Krishna says in this chapter we were reading. Krishna says one who is demoniac, he casts them again and again and again in the womb, demoniac species. So if one is demoniac and he remains demoniac, then Krishna says he is like almost perpetually remains there in that. That's what Krishna is saying. So there are a few causes, but the one two that come to mind at the moment is, you know, past births, conception, consciousness of parents, and association, and one's activities, obviously. Santosh Mataji writes, nice class. The demoniac are engaged in activities that will lead the world to destruction. So it goes. So is this pandemic the work of the demons or leading to it? Certainly, Mataji. Certainly, you know, just from an external point of view, we can see what is the cause of this pandemic. Where did the coronavirus originally initiate? It was in the markets in China, where they were butchering, you know, both innocent animals and wild animals. From those demoniac activities, this virus came about, and certainly those who are doing the same activities remotely in other countries, the virus came to bear. So, you know, just from our understanding of the Bhagavad Gita, yes, certainly, these demoniac activities, they lead to the destruction of the world. And Krishna says that in the Gita. This leads to nothing but tribulation. The way Gaurangi Mataji says, thank you very much for explaining the details of verse. Very insightful class. Dandava Pranam. Thank you, Divya Gaurangi Mataji. You always have nice insights also. So would you like to give some insight? What reflections you have on this verse?
Prabhuji, thank you so much. You explained so nicely everything. Yeah, everything is covered. So what else is there to reflect? But yeah, time, place, circumstances, our association with devotees, our previous karmas. There are so many factors involved here, you know, because I was listening to this really nice short link of Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. And he explains so beautifully that, say, for example, a man is watching a TV and someone comes and a thief comes and he's stealing that TV. So the man still keeps watching the TV and goes with the thief, keeps watching the TV. So the person who's watching the TV is the soul. The television is our attachments, the modes that we have, you know, in this life, all our attachments. And the person who's stealing the TV could be the one who's collecting the soul, could be anyone, Yamraj or Vishnu Dutas or any other living beings that they come and collect the soul. So this, at the time of death, actually the subtle body leaves the body, and that's the death. But the soul has such terrific attachment that it goes with the subtle body, and that's how the soul leaves the body, because it wants to just follow this subtle body wherever it goes, and that's how soul is not liberating. So we can see how the previous samskaras are so powerful that they're going to follow wherever we go, unless we come into bhakti yoga and really surrender to Krishna. Until then, it's going to be very difficult. So yeah, if the previous birth there were some demonic qualities, with this attachment, the subtle body will definitely carry it to next life. But if with mercy of some saintly persons, this soul had association or some bhakti yoga, then obviously the divine qualities will follow with that subtle body. I was just reflecting. Sorry, Prabhuji, I'm just blabbering.
No. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's so useful. Thank you, Divya Gaurangi Method. Okay. Has anyone else got any qualities, reflections, or comments? If not,
Prabhuji, just one thing.
Sure.
While listening to all the exalted devotees here and reading their comments, one thing is becoming very clear to me, that if this body, if my soul is entrapped in this body is living in this house and whatever assets, then everything should be devoted to devotional services full on. My body, my assets, my family, my children, everything. That's the only path, it seems, from what is coming out of this chapter.
Very nice realization. The other day when we were in the kitchen cooking, I had a class by Srila Prabhupada. This class is called "This Body is Meant for Others." It had such a profound effect on me, where Srila Prabhupada presents so many arguments that this body is not meant for us. And maybe in another class, I will go through those arguments. This body does not belong for us. Firstly, when we come into being, our mother gives us this body. And when we die, it becomes either dust again, food for the worms or the vultures. And while we're living here, it's used for the service of others. So it doesn't belong to us. So why not dedicate this body for the service of Krishna? That's a very powerful realization, Sandeep Prabhu. Very powerful. Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone, for your wonderful participation, and all glories to your service. And we'll meet again tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you
Krishna
very much.
Krishna Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, for the wonderful
Thank
class.
you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.